O God, who are pleased to give us a shining example of the Holy Family, graciously grant that we may imitate them in practicing the virtues of family life and in the bonds of charity, and so, in the joy of your house, delight one day in eternal rewards. These are the words from our collect prayer on this wonderful feast, this feast of the Holy Family that we celebrate today. Pope St. John Paul II once said that as the family goes, so goes the nation, and so goes the whole world in which we live. And we all agree that the nation and the world that we are currently living in appears to be in peril. The moral foundation of our society appears to be crumbling at an exponential rate. Because this foundation that is the nucleus of society, is under grave attack by Satan and his minions. And this core, this nucleus that gives sturdy foundation to our society, is the family, the nuclear family. In her 2020 article entitled "Time to Revive the Nuclear Family," Sister Helena Burns admits that the term nuclear family is a strange phrase. And then she asks the question, does it glow? What is it exactly? And Pope St. John Paul II, he affirms that the family is the nucleus of our society because the family revolves around a central nucleus of human life in which society draws its origin. And this nucleus of human life is love. This nucleus of human life is love. He goes on to say that the family is not only at the beginning of the history of humanity, but we can say it's at its essence. Because the history of humanity is a love story. He says very famously, we can never forget that man cannot live without love. He remains a being that is incomprehensible for himself. His life is senseless if love is not revealed to him, if he does not encounter love, if he does not experience it and make it his own, if he does not participate intimately in it. So the core of the family is at the core of what it means to be human. And we all know that Satan hates humanity, and therefore he attacks the nucleus of humanity the most. That is the family, the foundation of love. So as diabolical influence is all around us, from the promotion of the hookup culture that has led to a lack of commitment in relationships and the rampant divorce and infidelity in our culture. We can look at also the throwaway culture that includes disposing of unwanted lives and abortion and euthanasia. And now we are seeing the promotion of false ideologies in gender dysphoria and the view that authentic femininity, womanhood, motherhood, authentic masculinity, manhood, and fatherhood are seen as offensive today. And all of this is leading not to happiness and human flourishment, but to an epidemic of identity confusion, anxiety, and depression. The truth of love and even responsibility as the core of human happiness is being snuffed out by a culture of darkness and death. But this culture of death and darkness was also promoted by Herod in our gospel today. Like some of the leaders in our society that are influencing our society today, Herod was threatened by life himself. He was threatened by truth himself and the light himself. Herod preferred darkness over the light. In fact, he would even have his own family members, even his own sons, killed if he felt threatened by them. It was so bad that even Caesar Augustus even said that you are better off being one of Herod's pigs than one of his sons. So Herod, feeling threatened by the Son of God being born unto him, he orders the massacre of the innocents. And how does God choose to save the defenseless Christ child? His purity, his innocence, and the light of his wonderful life is saved by the means of a holy family. And this reigns true for us today. The Holy Family is at the core of the nuclear family because their lives perfectly radiated the love of God. And this radiation of love that gives life to all families finds its source in the light himself, whom Mary and Joseph mothered and fathered in Christ Jesus. So to answer Sister's question, does the nuclear family glow? I would have to say that it not only glows, but it radiates. It radiates. The way to bring healing to our families is to absorb the radiation of authentic fatherhood and authentic motherhood. And what do I mean by that? When I was preparing to enter the seminary, I went to a religious store in town in Albuquerque one afternoon to buy a cassock. And the shopkeeper, he took me towards the back of the store to try on this cassock. And we were the only people in this store. And at the very moment, the very second that I put on this white Roman collar for the very first time, a voice from out of nowhere just appeared out of nowhere and said to me this: Father, Father, will you hear my confession? I was shocked. There suddenly was a man standing right next to me, and he was in need of God the Father. He was really distressed when I told him that I wasn't a priest. He couldn't understand. And in that moment, I got a glimpse into the reality of the profound mystery of a priestly vocation, spiritual fatherhood. How an ordinary man like me can become an image of the Father. And how people are looking for the fatherhood of God in them and in other fathers, spiritual fathers. I prayed to God for that grace to go deeper to understanding this mystery. And I would later read another writing from Pope St. John Paul II. It was a play that he wrote called The Radiation of Fatherhood. And in it, there's a line that says this. It says, to become a father, one must enter the radiation of fatherhood. To absorb the radiation of fatherhood means not only to become a father, but much, much more. And this much more is this: to become a son. Being the father of many, many people, I must be a son. And from here, I've come to learn that authentic fatherhood is a radiation of God's own eternal fatherhood. And I can't radiate the fatherhood of God without first absorbing that radiation of fatherhood. And that requires me simply living in my identity as a beloved son. And this is the same for all of us. This was even so for Jesus. The Son of God himself absorbed the radiation of the fatherhood of God, in part through the radiation of Joseph's fatherhood, and even Mary's motherhood, as their own beloved son, for the formation of his own human character. It was by living in that holy household in Nazareth that Christ lived out the wisdom of the first reading himself. He lived it out himself, where it says, God sets a father in honor over his children. A mother's authority he confirms over her sons. Whoever honors his father atones for sins and preserves himself from them. And when he prays, he is heard. He stores up riches who reveres his mother. Jesus went to Mary and Joseph, and he absorbed their fatherhood and their motherhood. So Mary and Joseph, they show us the profound impact the influence of motherhood and fatherhood have on the formation of character and our own identity as beloved sons and daughters of the Father. And the gift that we celebrate today in the Holy Family, in Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, is a gift that is given to us to participate in. We're not just bystanders, we're not just on the sidelines, we participate in that. And no matter where we are in life, we always have a perfect family in the Holy Family. And the holy paternal and maternal influence of Joseph and Mary can have a significant influence on the formation of our character, a character that resembles the beloved Son of God himself. So in our fight to recover our nation, our society, and families for God the Father, let us go nuclear, by absorbing the radiation of fatherhood and motherhood as spiritual sons and daughters of Joseph and Mary. O God, who are pleased to give us the shining example of the Holy Family, graciously grant that we may imitate them in practicing the virtues of family life and in the bonds of charity, and so in the joy of your house delight one day in eternal rewards.